live.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining. We are here with a legend, Sheldon Lettich, and soon-to-be legend, Zach Shearer. We're going to talk all about Sheldon Lettich's new movie, and of course, a legend among legends, the best co-host on YouTube, Brand the Beast Robinson. Yeah, give him a hand, man.
All right, Brian.
Golf clap.
How you guys doing?
Love golf claps.
Doing good. I'm glad we got everything working here. I got my picture up there now.
For sure. Okay, so a lot of people when they heard there was a new Sheldon Lettich movie, it was going to be Lionheart-esque. They were thinking it was that Fight Pride movie, but it is not. It is something completely different because before on the show, Sheldon, we talked about Fight Pride, right?
I believe we did, yeah, and that still has not moved forward. I've not gotten any money from them. I don't have any kind of a deal memo or a contract, nothing. But they keep talking about it. We've been talking about it for about 2 years now. Whereas with Mouthful of Knuckles, this is really happening. Okay, yeah. I actually got paid some money. They actually flew me to Ohio. I did some scouting. I met a lot of people. And I've actually got a deal memo now from Jeff Miller. So I believe we are on the road towards production.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So Zach, you're so heavily involved in this. Of course, you're going to be the lead of this film. How did you get involved exactly? Like, how did this come about, Mouthful of Knuckles?
Well, so you'd have to go back quite a bit. I want to say it's been close to 3 or 4 years now, Sheldon, maybe, right? I mean, it was right before COVID.
Yeah, I met you. I met you a few years back. I was introduced to you by what's his name?
Warner Davis.
Huh?
By Warner Davis.
Warner Davis. And I was introduced to Warner Davis by our producer, Jeff Miller. I had a script called Cop War that he sent to Warner, and Warner was kind of interested in that. But nothing ever came of that. But Warner introduced me to Zach Shearer, and I was very impressed with Zach. And I kept him in mind. I was thinking this is a guy that could definitely be an action star. And so then when Mouthful of Knuckles came up, I told Jeff, what about that guy Zach that I was introduced to by Warner? And so we had a meeting at my house. Jeff really liked Zach also, and so here we are.
Yeah, here we are. That's exactly how it was. We had another script that I had written in the past as well. That once I got introduced to Sheldon, I started getting in talks with him about that script, and we had some stuff in place for that, and then COVID hit. So it was a ball breaker. Let's put it that way. But other things started picking up, and here we are. That's kind of the nature of the business. It's like you have all these things going and going and going, and then one gets a little further than the other, and then one finally takes off.
Yeah, for sure. And these balloons, these different things that are going, sometimes the balloon pops, and that could be disheartening, But then, hey, as long as you got enough balloons up there, one of them's going to make it, one of them's going to go, and this is the one. It's funny because everybody loves Lionheart. Like, I like that more than Bloodsport, to be perfectly honest. I love that movie.
I think it's a better movie than Bloodsport too. I agree.
Absolutely.
There you go, man. But the funny thing is everybody wants Sheldon to do a Lionheart type movie, myself included, because I know you wrote a script and I read a script. It's really good, Zach, and it's kind of like Lionheart-esque, just like this Mouthful of Knuckles. And I even wrote a script called Blood Phoenix that I sent to Sheldon before. Again, another Lionheart type movie. So everybody wants Sheldon to do these Lionheart type movies, but we're finally going to get one off the ground with the Mouthful of Knuckles. So
yes, we are.
Yeah,
yes,
tell us like when you guys going to plan to start shooting this thing?
Sheldon, you want to take that?
Probably in the fall. Most of my movies that I have directed, we started shooting in the fall, generally around October. Like Lionheart was October, November, and even into December. Double Impact, we definitely went well beyond the holidays into January. So that's generally when I start shooting movies. And so I think this one's going to fall right into that same date. I would imagine October would be when we start shooting, sometime in October, probably not before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best for this kind of story too. It's set in the Midwest. You get the changing of the leaves, and the fall kind of brings that where you can see your breath when you're out, you're moving around, the dew on the ground, you know.
Oh no,
So
it sounds like it's going to be cold.
might be Sheldon.
Right.
Better get your parka ready, man. No, that's the Midwest for you, you know. But to me, that's Sheldon's right. There's no better than a fall shoot. Nothing better, you know.
Hey, Zach, so this is obviously going to give you a lot of attention. It's going to have a lot of fights, a lot of martial arts. Let's kind of go into your martial arts history because you've been involved for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I started around the age of 4 or 5, I want to say. My father was a kickboxer, and he did boxing. And so, you know, of course, the moment I was able to start, you know, playing sports, that was the first thing I was let into. So I started Taekwondo around 4 or 5, started wrestling around 6 or 7. So martial arts has been an integral part of my life since I was a kid. I mean, honestly, it's what's made me today, you know. I did fight competitively for a while, first on the U.S. national Taekwondo team for a good 2 or 3 years, alternate to the Olympic team back in the day, when Stephen Lopez and all those guys were going at it and winning Olympic gold medals. And then once I got into college, you know, like the wrestling and the Taekwondo, I needed somewhere to kind of place it, you know. And so I started doing some actual MMA fighting and fought in a syndicate in St. Louis area. Lived in Illinois at the time and had some success with that. It was real fun. But around the same time, I got noticed in a gym to go out for a casting call for a Rawlings football commercial. Some lady walked up and said, "Hey, you got a good look. I'm the marketing director. Go." Long story short, I got it. So that opened that door again, because I always wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. It's just at some point somebody told me, "Hey, that's not possible. You know, get your stuff together, you know, and let's get on a path that makes sense." Right. So I bought into that at a young age. Well, thank God that little nugget came around, because that kind of opened my eyes. Like, hey, look, man, I really can't do this. And it started with that and worked its way into modeling. And, you know, it's been a long, fun ride, and it's been ups and downs, but I've loved every single step of the journey. And I look forward to seeing what kind of thing I can create with this one life we all have, you know?
Oh, exactly. And it's funny that you brought up how you wanted to be an actor when you were younger, but someone put that, what I would call, a very limiting belief in your head. Because, I mean, and the odds are like, look, it's 1,000,001 shot for anyone to really blow up.
I got to tell you, I do that all the time. People tell me they want to be an actor, they want to be in martial arts, they want to do all this stuff. And I always try to discourage them, because I know how hard it is. I know most of them are not going to make it. All right. So rather than leading them on into something that's going to turn into a dead end, I try to discourage people, because I've also found that the people that are going to make it are going to make it no matter how many people tell them they can't do it. No matter how many people try to discourage them, they're going to find a way. And that's I noticed that with Jean-Claude. Okay, same thing with him. People were telling, "Hey, this guy can't. Hey, this guy's got a European accent. He's got a French accent. This guy's not going to make it." I took him around to a number of producers, people who didn't want to work with him. Finally, we found the right situation with Bloodsport, because we needed somebody who could actually do the fighting on camera. Mm-hmm. We had there were other suggestions made to us by the people at Canon. They were saying, "Oh, what about Chuck Norris in Bloodsport?" No, Chuck's too old. The character is really supposed to be in his 20s. Well, what about Michael Dudikoff? Well, Michael Dudikoff's not a fighter. Okay, yeah. He puts this ninja outfit on, and he's got Sho Kosugi and other people doing all the stunts for him. But if we have to see this guy with his face uncovered doing the kumite, it's not going to work, because he can't really fight. Then we found Jean-Claude, and now we had the perfect combination. Yeah, his English wasn't great, but he managed to overcome that. He managed to make his accent better, and the rest is movie history. So,
yeah, for sure.
With Zach, same thing here. Jeff Miller's been trying to do a movie with me for quite some time. For a couple of years now, we've been talking about doing something. But he hasn't brought me a project that I really liked, that I really felt would fit into my my repertoire of action movies. And then he brought me Mouthful of Knuckles, and I believe he he made a movie in Mansfield, Ohio, called Escape from Death Block 13.
Yeah, with
And
Charles
on
Bronson.
that, he met. So he met the producer. He met David Kirst, and I guess David Kirst came up to him and said, "Hey, I got this script called Mouthful of Knuckles. Would you be interested in reading it?" And Jeff read it and thought, "This is something I should tell Sheldon about." So he did. I liked the script. It needed some work because David was not a professional screenwriter. So we've done a little bit of work on it. I think it's gonna play really well. But basically, I like the idea. And then I said, to try to get past the bullshit, I said, okay, how about bringing me to Mansfield, Ohio, so I can look around, I can meet some of these people, I can see some locations, and let me see how feasible this would be. Now, with some of these other projects that people want me to do, they're not flying me to a location. Like with Fight Pride. Okay, guys, you say you want to shoot in London. Well, let's go to London. Let's do some scouting. Or they wanted to shoot in Cyprus. They want to shoot in a number of places. Well, fly me there and let me look around. Let me meet some people. That never happened. But with this one, it actually happened. I went to Mansfield, Ohio. Zach actually came with us, which was really cool because the people who were potential investors all got to meet Zach, and everybody was impressed with Zach. I mean, everybody. That, like, we were at this restaurant doing some networking, and there was a woman there who was, I'd say, maybe in her 50s or 60s, and she was having a birthday party in a private room. And so the producer says, hey, can I introduce these ladies to Zach? Okay. So he goes in there with Zach, and basically all eyes were on Zach. So he definitely appeals to the female audience, which is a good thing because Jean-Claude did too. It's the same with Jean-Claude. So another thing about Zach also, I was impressed with his background, with his fight. He really knows how to do this stuff. He's done it. He's been in the ring. He's fought with people. He's gotten punched in the face, punched in the ribs. So this guy is the real deal. Plus, he looks good. He's got a good voice. He's got a good attitude. So we've got the right guy here, and Jeff agreed. So that's why we are moving forward on this. We're going to shoot it in Mansfield, Ohio, and there's our star right there, Zach Shear.
I appreciate it, Sheldon. I'll make sure who do you want me to endorse the checkout to?
Yeah, how much you going, man? Like, what are you paying for that? No, that's awesome, man. Because basically,
honestly, I appreciate it, and I cannot. It's to me, it's surreal to even hear it come out of your mouth, Sheldon, and I appreciate it. And I truly believe that there's no luck. It's a trained ability colliding with an opportunity. Without the trained ability,
you created the opportunity, and then Jeff Miller took care of the other half of the opportunity by finding a script that we could put you into. And actually, Jeff was not pushing you to be in a movie. It's not like let's not put the cart before the horse. We started with a script. We started with Jeff Miller going to Mansfield, Ohio, running into David Kirst, and David giving him a script. And so now all the elements have come together, and we've got everything we need to make what I think is going to be a very successful martial arts film.
Hey, Sheldon, I got to bring something up, though. You're experiencing the same problem I'm experiencing with David. When they walk in the room, we lose all the attention from the ladies.
Remember what happened down the street when we were meeting up with Tim Witherspoon to go to that restaurant? Remember that lesbian?
Oh my God! Yeah, she fell in love with him. She even said that because I'm a lesbian, but she said,
"Wow, you're even switching them over, David."
Yeah, I'm trying. Hey, man, I'm doing God's work, right? Got to switch her back over. Anyway, dude. Okay, so there's so much you said there, Sheldon. So much to unpack. And I didn't want to cut in because you want to roll. But Zach paid you good, right? You had to keep going.
Right.
No. Look, I talked to Zach for a while. We talked for a while. And we'd recently met in person, actually for the first time at your house, funny enough. And then, we went to those BKFC fights. Remember, Zach? And then we hung out with Sylvester Stallone's nephew. And then we met up at Phil Polina's gym training. So I spent some time with Zach. He's got a good energy. He's a good guy. I think he's going to be really great in this film. And the important thing is that you as the director and him as a star, like, well, the director, like, you believe in him. It's not like just the producers like, well, I want this guy in the movie, you know. You're like, oh, okay, whatever, man. But so that you actually believe in him like you believed in Van Damme is why you could, you know, do something magical like you did with Van Damme and Lionheart and Double Impact. In fact, one of the comments, a guy, you know, it was a couple comments back, had mentioned that no one directed Van Damme better than you did, because like the movies that you did with them, Lionheart and Double Impact, you know, they're in everybody's top 5, maybe even top 3.
It comes down to the fact that I believed in him. That's why I ended up directing Lionheart, because I had not directed a feature prior to Lionheart, and the producer was really nervous about hiring me to direct. He wanted Eric Carson to direct the movie, but Jean-Claude fought for me. Why? Because he knew I believed in him, and that was that became apparent once we started shooting, because I gave him all this character stuff to do, all this dialogue. People before that, people just saw him as a karate guy, you know, a choppy sake guy, and nobody was giving him any decent dialogue. So there wasn't much for him to build on as a character. Whereas in Lionheart, we did all that, and people noticed it. That's Universal saw the picture. They picked the picture up. And that was Jean-Claude's first studio release. Prior to that, we were getting, you know, Bloodsport got released by Canon, Kickboxer got released by Kings Road. So these were like low-budget companies. And now, it's amazing, the producers themselves, Sunil Shah, they never really believed that we were going to get picked up by a major studio. And we did, simply because they were not just impressed with the movie, they were impressed with Jean-Claude. And why were they impressed with Jean-Claude? I actually let him loose. I let him do his thing. I let him be what he had the potential to be. And Universal ended up making quite a few movies with Jean-Claude after that. So that's where that came from. And similarly, I really believe in Zach. I believe Zach can definitely carry this movie. And I believe we've got the right script, and then we've just done some work on the script, and it's going to be much better shape. And I can't wait to be turned loose on the set. And we're going to go.
I'm excited, man. You're getting me excited right now. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Now let's bring up, and you kind of referenced it, you know, the reason why Lionheart really stands up. Now, look, I love the fight scenes, man. I've even talked to a lot of the guys who were in the fight scenes and got all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff. James Brewster Thompson, of course, Paco Prieta, etc. You know, even Attila, who funny enough, I worked with on the last Kuma team. That was a thrill. Hey, this is Attila.
And Michelle Kesey, Mohammed Kesey also.
Yeah. A lot of people forget he was in Lionheart, but yeah, he was after Van Damme as part of the guide to bring him back. But the thing that, look, Lionheart, we care about the character. Like, okay, so let's talk about the character in Mouthful of Knuckles, because obviously we know you're a great martial artist, Zach. You're obviously going to be able to do the fight scenes, no problem. But why are we going to care about the character? Like, tell us a little bit about the character.
Well, I'm gonna let Sheldon talk about that.
Yeah, let's not reveal too much about that, because you want the character to be able to unfold on the screen as you're watching the movie. I don't want to give away too much. What I really want the audience to know is that there's going to be a lot of fights in the movie. We've got a guy who's the real deal, who can really do these fights, who's done these fights, who's actually gotten punched in the face and knows what that feels like. So we're going to have some great fights. Apparently, there's a lot of people to choose from here in the Midwest. There's a lot of MMA guys and wrestlers, and so we're going to have some good fighters for him to go against in the movie. And that's really what we need to do to entice people to see this. They want to see a mouthful of knuckles. They want to see people fight. Now, there's going to be some great character stuff we've got in there also. And we're talking about, there's a few major actors that we're talking to, one of whom was in Lionheart. I don't want to give it away now because
really?
Huh?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I know who. I'm not going to say anything.
You know, okay, but we're going for a few major names here. A couple of whom I've worked with before, a couple of whom Jeff Miller has worked with before in Mansfield, Ohio. So we're going to have some names in here. We're going to have some actors that have a lot of history, a lot of credibility. And that was one thing that we did with Lionheart also. We we surrounded Jean-Claude with people who could act.
Yeah.
So basically, and he likes a challenge. He's not one that's going to run and hide if somebody is going to if he's afraid somebody's going to outdo him as an actor. He's going to meet that challenge. So if you're not challenging him, if you're making it too easy for him, yeah, then it's going to be Bloodsport or Kickboxer. You get some good actors around him, and now he's going to realize, shit, I got to up my game so that I can I can be in a scene with Harrison Page and not embarrass myself, because Harrison's going to walk all over me if I can't come up to that level. So we want to do the same here with Zach. We're going to bring in there's a few actors I just don't want to mention because they've been approached. I've spoken to them. They say they want to do it, but we don't have a deal with them yet. So let's not jump the gun here. But we will have some recognizable names in the movie along with Zach. Okay, so.
And I would say this: my character has a heart. You know,
right.
I think that's what sets Lionheart apart from the rest of the Jean-Claude Van Damme saga. Is Lionheart hits us here and here, right?
Right.
So we want to try to encompass that as well. But at the end of the day, look at the title. That's what it's all about. A mouthful
right.
of nothing.
Action, fighting, yeah, you know. And I always say, you remember Lionheart, you remember Rocky because you care about the character. So you know, there's so many like movies that they're almost like more like a video game. You don't like emotionally connect, so you don't really you don't care what happens to the character unless you care about the character. That is so key that a lot of films they just miss. That should just be common sense, you know, because otherwise it's disposable. You watch it once and like you never need to see it again because it doesn't even feel like a real person that you care about, you know. So
it's there. It's in this script. It's there. Especially this last rewrite that Sheldon was playing around with. It really gives that character a little bit more depth as to why he's doing what he's doing.
Nice.
And you know, everybody else's character, they all work synergistically together to create and unfold such a good story. And you'll see.
Yeah, sounds good. So, you know, Sheldon, people are going to be asking, and they're already asking, all want to work with you. They all want to get involved. So if somebody, and there's a lot of martial artists, actors, stuntmen, etc., who watch the channel, obviously. So if they wanted to get involved, like, is there going to be an open casting call? Like, who would they contact to, you know, show their stuff to, for example?
We haven't worked all that out yet. And I've already got people contacting me from all over, all over the country and all over the world, wanting to be in the movie. And I just have to say, guys, we're not ready to go yet. We're not ready to cast people. I got to have a fight choreographer who picks the fighters. I'm not going to pick all the fighters. The fight they got to go to the fight choreographer first, and he's got to pick some people. And then out of them, I will choose some that can do some lines and some that can't do some lines. Not everybody's an actor. People think it's easy to be an actor. No, it's not easy. You got to have something within you that you've got to have an innate ability to be an actor on camera. So that hasn't started yet. I don't know who we're going to want to get in touch with. We're going to get all that work there for once we have a stunt coordinator. Then we'll start looking for people. But I certainly don't want to hear from people now because we're not quite ready. You know, on Lionheart, we put out an open casting call for fighters. And people knew who Jean-Claude was at the time because Bloodsport had come out. We had 1,000 people show up. I mean, we used Frank Dukes' dojo in North Hollywood to audition these people. We just had no idea. Like 1,000 people showed up in person. And then we had Michelle Kesey and Frank Dukes were putting them to the pace of seeing who could fight, who couldn't fight. You know, we were choosing some guys, eliminating some. And then I had a core group. I might have had like 30 people that I really liked. But then I had to separate them. I wanted to make sure everybody had a different look so we wouldn't get the fighters confused with one another. So there's a lot to picking the cast and the fighters for a movie like this. And we have not even begun the process yet, but I imagine we'll get that going in the next few months. I'm going to go get some water, guys. Sorry, I'm going to duck out.
Yeah.
David, did you want to answer? Should I answer some of these questions that are popping up?
You know what? Like, yeah, because I can't even click on them. Usually I'll click. So, you know, Brian,
I got one that just
best
popped
ones,
up.
or just Zach, if you've seen something specific that you want to answer. 'Cause I
Give
can't
me a
even click on them.
timestamp on it, and I'll go right to it.
I can only see one of them.
Oh, really? Which one?
Let me see if I can show the chat. Ah, there they are. Okay, so like this one here pops up, says, Master Zach, how did your background in Taekwondo shape your approach to fitness and acting? And what was it like to be part of the US AAU national team?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'd say, I mean, again, like I said, Taekwondo has been, martial arts in general have been an integral part of my life since I was a kid. I mean, it's literally ingrained in me. It's like a second religion. It's you know, like brushing my teeth in the morning. It's ingrained in my DNA. In regards to how it helps me approach the fitness and acting, I mean, it's like anything else. If you want something, you got to work for it, right? If you want to stay conditioned, you've got to stay in shape by, you know, training and being on top of everything and having discipline. So those core character building blocks were set with me at a really young age. I mean, you know, discipline, sacrifice, dedication, sweat equity, you know, doing things you don't want to do, even though, you know, you have to. The thing is it's everything. Fitness, life, acting, it's all the same, in my opinion, as far as what martial arts did for me in those realms. And fitness, I mean, it keeps me in shape. Martial arts has always kept me in shape. I didn't really pick up the whole, you know, trying to put muscle on until probably the end of my undergrad in college, because I was always having to lose weight for Taekwondo and for wrestling and competing and stuff. And so when I was able to actually put on muscle, it was quite fun. And then acting, same thing, man. It's like, again, it's being a master of beating on that craft to hopefully become a master. And anybody that says they're a master, in my mind, isn't a master, because a master knows he's never a master, right? So you just every day have to keep on checking the boxes. So yeah, and then in regards to being part of the national team, honestly, that was such an amazing experience. It was so long ago. It feels like it was so long ago, even though it wasn't that much long ago. But you know, they flew us out to Texas, and we fought with Gene Lopez and Stephen Lopez and all those guys. If anybody is familiar with Olympic style Taekwondo, those are the OGs. So we had training sessions with them. We stayed out in Sugar Land, Texas for I think a week or so. And then of course we traveled around the country and other countries, and we competed. And I'm not a big fan of the Olympic style these days. I'm more of a fan of the old school. I mean, not that it's bad. It's just I enjoy the old school, you know. So that's kind of my thing. But yeah, being a part of the national Taekwondo team it was right here, you know, still is today.
Nice. Sheldon, here's a question from Antonio. Remember Antonio?
I remember Antonio, absolutely.
Yeah, I told him specifically not to bring up Master Frank Dukes, by the way, so don't worry about that. But anyway, his question here, he says, Mr. Sheldon, as a director known for adrenaline-filled martial arts and stunt-driven films, what are the key elements you focus on to ensure both the action and the storytelling remain captivating?
Okay. Well, that's a tough one. I need questions that are a bit more specific. This is very, very broad. And if I start talking about this, I'll be talking for the next 30 minutes. But what are the key elements you focus on? Yeah, I have to divide it up, because when it comes to the fighting, the action, I've got a fight choreographer, stunt coordinator. I've got these people that are going to be dealing with the fights, because I'm not a fighter myself. I'm not a fight choreographer. I'm going to rely on somebody to do that for me. Like in Lionheart, we had Michelle Casey and Frank Dukes and, of course, Jean-Claude. The three of them came up with all of these fights. They'd come up with some ideas. They'd show it to me, and I'd say, yeah, I like that, or I don't like that, or how can we do this also? But I can't say, well, why don't you use an elbow there? Why don't you use your knee there? Why don't you do this move or that move? I don't know enough about it. Okay, that's not my bag. So it's important that I have a team that can handle the fights. I'm going to be dealing with telling the story, which is already in the script, and I actually did a lot of work on the script myself. So so I know the script, I know the story well, I know how to tell the story, and I'm going to be dealing with the actors, making sure that they that they're getting their character across the way I want it to go across. Now, I was in New Jersey. Was it last year? When did we do Warrior Island?
Warrior Island. It was August, I believe.
August. Also in the summer.
Year, yeah.
So I was not the director of Warrior Island. I was not the writer. I was just there pretty much as an observer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got to see David Kurzel doing his thing as an actor and as a fighter, as a martial artist. And I actually gave David some advice when he was shooting. And the advice is not, I'm not talking about volumes of advice. I'm talking about just a sentence or two, which will set any actor on the right path to doing what I want them to do on screen. And with David, one thing that he was doing at first, he had all this dialogue and he was reading it way too fast. He was just trying to get it all out there as quickly as he could. And my advice to him was, David, slow it down, okay? Do one sentence at a time. Do not try to do the entire paragraph in one breath, okay? Because it doesn't sound real. It's not going to work. And the audience is going to have a hard time following you. So basically, he did that. He just did one sentence at a time. Okay, focus on the sentence. First of all, remember that, get that sentence in your head so you know what it is, and you don't have to look at a page. You don't have to ask anybody for your lines. You already know. So he does the one sentence, takes a little pause, then the next sentence, and then the next one. And it was coming off really, really well, very realistic. I totally believed it. And that's what I want to get from actors. I want to believe that they are that character when they're saying their dialogue. And I want to make sure that the dialogue itself sounds natural, sounds real. And so that was a little bit of advice that I gave to David. It didn't take much. And almost instantly, his performance was better. So that's the kind of thing that I want to do with actors. Now, generally, and I've heard other directors say this too, like, so what do you tell your actors? Well, it's generally 4 things that you can tell the actor that's going to make any kind of difference at all. Don't start talking about, their background, where they came from, like who their first girlfriend was. None of that stuff. Just, okay, slower or faster, or bring it down a bit. You're too loud, or get louder. Okay, we can't hear what you're saying. You got it too much inside of yourself. You got to bring it out. You got to get louder. So those are the 4 things that I'll generally tell an actor, and it makes a big difference. And that's all you got to tell them. You don't got to fill their heads full of all kinds of nonsense about their character and their character motivation. You don't got to talk about all that. They should have known about all that stuff, or you should have talked to them ahead of time, which is something that I generally do with my actors. On most of the films I've done, I don't do rehearsals on the set. We do the rehearsals the weekend before. So whatever scenes we've got coming up in the next week, I'll bring all my actors together. We'll be in a room and we'll just rehearse every scene. Not every scene in the movie. We don't do a complete read through of the entire script, because that ends up taking half a day or an entire day, and it doesn't really help you all that much. What we do is we're just going to do the scenes that are coming up next week, and we're going to rehearse those, and let's see how those go. And if you have any trouble with any of the lines, you want to change anything, let me know, and we'll put notes in the script, and I'll type it up, and it'll be ready for you when we're on the set. But one thing I don't like to do is have a discussion when I've got the entire cast and crew on the set, and the set is being paid for, and there's the crew is being paid. Everybody's being paid, and we get into an hours-long discussion about some actor's motivation. Well, why would I say that? Wouldn't I say something different? Well, no, I don't think you would say something. Oh, yeah, but I think I would. And then we got to argue about it. So I get all that stuff out of the way before we ever get to the set. So once we get to the set, we get the first shot set up and we start shooting. Okay, that's the way I like to do it. And that's the way I'm planning to do it here on Mouthful of Knuckles. We will try to have take a Saturday to just, I'll do a rehearsal with the actors. It's only the actors, nobody else. We don't want anybody else in the room. I just want to sit with the actors. And then we're going to do rehearsals with the fighters and with the fight choreographer. That's a completely separate rehearsal. We don't get the actors involved with that unless they're part of the fights. And we'll get all that worked out, because working out a fight on the set. Now, I don't know if you've ever had to do stuff like, maybe on Last Kumite you had to do that, David. I'm not sure. But when you get to the set and you don't have your fights worked out ahead of time, and then you got to work it out on the set with cast and crew standing around and everybody's just kind of waiting, and basically the clock is ticking. You're losing time. You're losing time that you're going to need on the set to get all the shots that you need. So I'd like to get all this stuff worked out in a rehearsal ahead of time. And like I said, I don't do cast and fighters at the same time. The fighters need different people there. The fight choreographer, stunt coordinator. We'll work all that out. And then when we get to the set, basically, as soon as we're there, we already know, okay, we're starting with this shot, this one that we worked out ahead of time. And that's how we get through with those. Now, I did a movie called Perfect Target in Mexico.
Ah, Daniel Bernhardt, yeah.
Daniel Bernhardt. But my fight choreographer was Chad Stahelski. And helping Chad was David Leitch. So I had both these guys there. Chad, of course, has gone on to direct all the John Wick movies. And one thing I noticed about Chad that I didn't notice with other fight choreographers that I worked with, Chad he'd have it all worked out in his head ahead of time. And he'd have a list on paper. Oh, it's going to be this shot, then this shot, then this shot, then this shot. Okay. And then once we started doing the fights, Chad would just go through the list and just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was a great way to do the fights. And so far, he's the best fight choreographer I have ever worked with. And of course, he and David have gone on to do
the biggest action film
movies
today.
Yeah. John Wick, and now this Fall Guy movie. So I learned a lot working with them. And hopefully we'll find somebody good to work out the fights for Mouthful of Knuckles. I'm hearing that there's some really good people involved here that live in the area. So I'll be meeting them the next time I come to Ohio, and we'll go from there. And once I've got those people picked, then we're going to start looking for fighters. Until then, you can send me all the pictures and videos that you want, but I can't do anything with them until I have a fight choreographer, because I don't want to pick somebody to be a fighter in the movie. And then the fight choreographer will say to me, "Oh, why'd you pick this guy? He can't do shit." Oh, he can look kind of good. No. Let me pick him. Okay. So I don't want to step on their toes. So that's the next step in the process of picking people who are going to be doing the fights in the movie.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Can I ask him a real quick question, David?
Yeah.
So here's something that's always fascinating about incredible directors, movie producers like yourself is martial arts is a very difficult philosophy to convey on screen. You know, it's the Buddha way of the warrior. There's almost a magic when it's expressed. Like you can watch some movies and they just don't ever do it with that warrior, that fighter. Like, what is the key to bringing that out on a scene? Like, so you don't even have to say it. I see the discipline that the martial arts talks about. I see the control. And how does that kind of, what is in your mind when you're setting that up?
I have not made a movie like that yet. Okay. I've made different kinds of movies where we don't really delve into the mindset behind the martial arts, simply because I'm not a martial artist myself. So, and I've read about this, I know a lot about it, but it's not something that I would try to make a movie about, simply because I don't really understand it well enough to talk to other people about it.
So I want to say this though, the movies you've made express that, like it's the unspoken. So I don't know whether
I know why. Well, Brian, obviously, look, Sheldon had one of the greatest action martial art performers of all time in Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they shot enough coverage where when they edit, you capture the drama, you just capture the close-ups of the faces, the looks. They don't just rush it like a video game. You capture and a lot of that has to do with the editing, and thankfully during the production they capture enough coverage where they could cut that in. So that's
in Bloodsport, we delved into that, and that was because we had Frank Dukes involved with Bloodsport, and Frank knows about a lot of that, the martial arts philosophy, a lot that's behind it. I would say he doesn't really practice it himself, but he knows how to talk about it. He understands it. So we had a lot of that in Bloodsport. Now, I was not involved with Bloodsport except with the initial writing. Yeah. So I was not on the set, but Frank was there on the set. So, you've got the scene with Jean-Claude meditating and doing the thing with the fingers. We've got the him talking with Tanaka about some of the principles behind martial arts. Bloodsport gets into it more than any other movie that I've been involved with. But then I just wrote the initial screenplay. But then there's a lot of nuances that come into play when you're actually making the movie, and they actually got those nuances. They actually had some real martial artists working on the movie, and Jean-Claude, of course, he brought a lot to it also because he's a real martial artist. He was trained in martial arts. Mm-hmm. He was trained in Shotokan karate, and actually Jean-Claude, his buddy, Michel Kesey, who worked on the movie, Michel trained in martial arts with
really good boxer.
Yes,
he's a really good boxer. Him and his brother.
Michel's a great boxer. So these guys, Jean-Claude and Michel, they knew a lot of the philosophy. Frank Dukes knew the philosophy, and so that came across in Bloodsport more so than Lionheart, because Lionheart's basically about illegal underground street fighting. Mm-hmm. And Lionheart is what it really started a mini genre about these underground street fighting movies. And there have been a number of Lionheart imitators since then. It's amazing just how many movies have followed this paradigm that we set up in Lionheart. And then we're doing another one right now. Mouthful of Knuckles basically falls into that same subgenre of illegal underground street fights. And those are not tied into martial arts philosophy, anything like that. It's just down and dirty street fights in the street with like rough and tumble players who think they're badasses, fighting one another in a ring, surrounded by a crowd of people that are betting on them. Mm-hmm. So that's not martial arts. That's not the martial arts philosophy that you were just talking about, Brian. So that is not going to be. It's going to be in this movie to a certain extent. We do talk about it a little bit with Zach's character. However, it's a street fighting movie like Lionheart, and there was no martial arts philosophizing in Lionheart at all. Nor is there in some of these other movies. Like there was one called Fighting with
Channing Tatum from Universal.
With Channing Tatum, which is pretty much a beat for beat ripoff of Lionheart. And Michael Jai White did one called
Blood and Bone.
Blood and Bone. And Blood and Bone is like almost beat for beat Lionheart.
They want that formula, man.
What's that?
You had the formula. You had the recipe.
Well, Jean-Claude and I came up with that formula because he had a lot to do with Lionheart, with the story, which is why he's got a co-screenplay credit on that one. Mm-hmm. Jean-Claude had a lot to do with that. But we did start this whole subgenre, and Mouthful of Knuckles falls right into that subgenre. It's going to be, it's very similar to, people who've seen Fighting or Blood and Bone are going to say, oh, Mouthful of Knuckles is kind of like those two movies. No, but it's really like Lionheart. It really comes from Lionheart. Lionheart's the one that really got the ball rolling on this genre.
Yeah, for sure. I got to give a shout out to EM. He donated $5 Canadian. Thanks, man. And he said, you'll like this, Sheldon. Sheldon is my favorite director. Lionheart forever.
Thank you, EM.
Yeah, that's great. So I got to make a comment real quick. Actually, two real fast. So Warrior Island last August. My favorite moment was getting direction from you, Sheldon, even though you weren't director on the show. But like you gave me the direction, then I did it the way you said, and I see you like
that director wasn't giving you anything.
no,
Okay?
it was an issue. But like after you gave me direction, I did it that way. I seen you nodding, and it was like Mr. Miyagi nodding to in the Karate Kid, right? Like it reminded me of that. But anyway, like I could just say, hey, I got quote directed at least for a scene by Sheldon Lettich, so that's a thrill in my life.
And I'm happy to say it made a difference.
Yeah, it did. It totally
was making a difference because basically nobody had given you any direction prior to, and you were rushing through those lines. There was a lot of lines that they gave you, and you were rushing through them. And dude, it doesn't sound real.
Well, that's why you need a coach or a director. That's the whole point of like your boxing. Like they see everything. You don't see it in the ring, but they see everything. I mean, you'll see some of it in the ring, but like the cornermen see it, right? And then you go out in the next round and you implement that. Speaking of boxing, here's a crazy connection, by the way, of how interconnected everything is. This relates to Frank Dukes, blood sport, boxing, everything. So, the guy I'm training with in Southern California, and you could vouch for him, Phil Polina is amazing, right, Zach?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you work out at a pro MMA gym all the time, and we were doing stuff with Phil. As for boxing,
it's a different world, man. I mean, boxing is
he's just next level, man.
It's just next level. I mean, you don't have to worry about somebody shooting in on your legs. You don't have to worry about
for sure.
kneeing you in the face, or a foot coming to your mouth, whatever.
But
it was awesome. He's great.
Oh yeah. But the reason I bring that up, that just happens to be the gym that Don the Dragon Wilson trains at.
Yeah.
That's how I got associated there. But funny enough, Phil's a hardcore Christian. I became a Christian recently, and he took me to his church, and the lady that runs the church is Hubie Kearns' daughter. So Hubie Kearns is the guy that got Frank Dukes involved in the stunts and movie related things. Isn't that weird how everything's like connected in some way?
Yeah.
Well, that's according to Frank Dukes. Okay, I don't know if Hubie Kearns really is the one that got him involved because look, you listen to Frank, and I'll also tell you that he fought with Bruce Lee, and he fought with what was the black guy that he said he said that he fought with. I'm forgetting the guy's name now. But Frank will tell you all kinds of stories about people that he's fought, and I don't want to go off on a Frank Dukes tangent, but I knew this guy personally for many years. I never saw him fight anybody. I never saw him spar. I never heard of him having a real bout with anybody. But he does have quite a bit of knowledge about fights and martial arts and all this kind of stuff. But as far as being an actual practitioner, I never saw any evidence of it, but there are people who will disagree with me. But I was there. I was a witness.
I have a prediction. I'm going to put it right here on the channel right now because it's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years, if not sooner. Basically, we are going to see, maybe not all of it, but we're going to see some of the Kumite fight footage. Do you know how and why? With Frank Dukes, by the way.
Right.
It's going to be AI generated. And nobody would ever know because somebody could just say, no, that's real. And other people will say, no, that's AI. And then there goes the next argument, but like that's going to happen. You're going to see it.
It's so good. You may not even be able to tell. It's getting so good nowadays, man.
So somebody generations from us, they'll read about Frank Dukes in some martial arts movie history book talking about the controversy. They're going to see that video, and people who aren't even born yet, will probably say, no, that dude's legit. Look at this video.
Yeah. Well, like that Bruce Lee video of apparently him playing, ping pong with nunchucks.
Yeah.
People still think that's
We
real.
all know.
Yeah.
I know people who think that's real.
Wait, Frank fighting who?
No. Bruce Lee playing ping pong with nunchucks. It looks real.
Right.
People think it's real. I know people that think it's real, but I'm not even going to get an argument with them. I'm like, you believe what you want.
I want to believe it.
Yeah, Brian, you can believe it. I'm not going to argue with Brian. Brian, that video is real. Whatever, man. I'll give you that.
I want to believe in it, man. It looks so cool, man. The guy actually hit it. It is unbelievable. Even if it's not Bruce Lee, you still want to believe that guy can really do
that. Somebody could do that, right?
Yeah, that's really kind of cool.
Man. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we'll
What
probably end
other
up seeing.
questions we got? We got any other questions on there you want to jump
There's a
at?
lot of questions.
Yeah, I see, man.
While Brian looks for a good question, no pressure, Brian. What were you going to say, Sheldon?
Oh, next we're going to see video footage, deep fake video footage of Frank Dukes in Vietnam blowing away a bunch of Viet Cong. Okay.
I've seen that footage. I think it's called Firefight.
Yeah,
Right,
it's called-
right. Actually, what's funny too about the Firefight is Frank took photos of himself on the set, and he put it in his book and said, "That's oh yeah, this is me, and this is me down in the trenches, down in the field, doing my thing as a real soldier in 1983. 1983. You got the date right, Frank, but that was when we shot Firefight, and that was basically a still from Firefight, him sitting on the sidelines, holding up a 357 Magnum and saying, "Yeah, this is the weapon that distinguished special forces troops." And no, special forces would never use a 357 Magnum. It's loud. It has far too much power, and you would have heard that weapon up in North Korea or North Vietnam if somebody had fired it. Anyway, I don't want to get into Frank
one thing I
Dukes
want to
stuff.
point out. Yeah, one thing I want to point out. If you guys want to see the short film that Sheldon's talking about, you could find it on my channel. Just do a search. Frank Dukes is in it. Brian Thompson, Philip, and Simon Reed. It's got quite the cast.
And it's got the real Frank Dukes. That really is Frank Dukes in that movie, playing a Marine with the helmet and the M16 and all of that. And you know what? He's actually quite good in the movie, I think. He actually did want to become an actor at one time. It's really astounding just how many people I've met who have dreams of being actors or movie stars. Like my friend, Quentin Tarantino was one of them, and he's put himself in his movies, but you take a look at him and you realize, well, Quentin, stick to directing. Okay, you're much better at that. And my buddy Lawrence Bender, who produced Quentin's early movies, I told him once, "No, Lawrence, I've never had any dreams about being an actor or a movie star. Because I don't feel comfortable in front of a camera. I've never wanted to be an actor." And Lawrence did not believe me. He said, "Come on, I don't believe that. Everybody wants to be a movie star. Everybody wants to be an actor." And I told him, "No, not me." But I do run in. This is why I'm nervous about putting the call out for people to send in pictures and videos of themselves. And I know we're going to get a few good ones. We're going to get a lot of them that are unusable. But there are so many people out there that feel that they are movie star material. I get emails and Facebook Messenger stuff from all over the world. You know, somebody in Zimbabwe will say, "Mr. Lettich, can you please make me a movie star? Here's some video of me doing my martial arts." And this stuff looks completely ridiculous, but people don't realize it. They just think that I'm movie star material. And I've run into this over and over again, which is why I'm a bit hesitant, but I know that's the only way. We're going to have to.
You're going to have to filter a lot of stuff, but
we're
you'll
going to have
find
to
the
allow
diamonds
people
in the rough.
But
Sheldon,
I really
what are you saying that there's like American Idol of acting, like, you know, the people are the awful singers, but they actually believe they sing great.
They actually believe that they can be an action star. They actually want. They're not joking. They're sincere about this. You know, like Mr. Lettich, I've always had a dream about being an action movie star, and I would like you to put me in one of your movies. And I can't even answer. And then if you answer and say, "Dude, you don't look like you're not going to be a movie star. Okay, you're not going to even be an actor," they get pissed off at you. And they'll start writing some bad shit about you on the internet. So I just stay away from this. I don't say anything.
Better to not even comment. You know, we have to point out Lawrence Bender, though, because he made a very good appearance in Lionheart, a memorable appearance. Remember?
Right. Yeah, Lawrence. And that was Lawrence is the heckler in the fight in the garage. The one where
Jeff Langton.
with Jeff Langton. And Yeah, that was like a little moment that it was like, see, that was a good acting moment with Lawrence and Jean-Claude, because that was not rehearsed. That was not in the script. Lawrence was just doing such a good job at being a jerk on the sidelines, taunting Jean-Claude. Finally, Jean-Claude, and just staying in character, and they both stayed in character. They all stayed in character, which was great. But Jean-Claude just reaches for him and says, "Okay, you and me right now," and pulls him in. And then Harrison Page jumps in and says, "No, man, you don't want to do that." It's a great little moment, but it was not rehearsed, not in the script. And it's great when things like that happen and they go well. Many times things like that happen and they don't go well, and people get hurt and people get punched. Hopefully we'll have some good moments like that on Mouthful of Knuckles, and hopefully nobody actually gets a real mouthful of knuckles.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I don't want to see that happen. And the thing is, when somebody really gets hit, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good in an action movie. Like when we did the pool fight in Lionheart, Paco and Jean-Claude were, they're in a swimming pool. It's not a flat surface. It's sloping down. And it's not easy to stand on it when there's no water in it. And so Paco accidentally kicked Jean-Claude in the face. Didn't look good. We didn't use it in the movie. And then Jean-Claude was basically down for about 45 minutes. They had to put ice packs on his face because he really got Paco's the real deal. And Paco gave him a solid kick to the face, and his face swelled up. But we managed to get it down. But those are the kind of things that you don't want to happen on a movie like this. That's why you need people that are skilled fighters. And if we have some people that have not been in the movies before, and we had that on Lionheart also. We picked some people that had not made a movie before. In fact, it might have been the first movie that Billy Blanks was ever in. So we liked Billy's look. We liked the fact that he could do all these martial arts. But we had Frank and Michelle basically gave these guys a little class on how to do movie fighting. The key to movie fighting is that the guy who's getting hit is the one who sells the hit. If you're the one who's getting kicked in the face, you got to be able to snap your head back. There's a way of snapping your head back that makes it look like you're actually hit. And we're probably going to have some people on this film. We're probably going to pick some people who we like, who are good fighters, but who have never been in a movie before. And so we're going to have to do a little bit of schooling, have a little bit of a stunt fighting class for them to make sure that everybody gets it, because otherwise it doesn't look good on screen.
Yeah, a crash course, if they're professional fighters, if they're good fighters, they're going to be open to coaching anyway, and they'll be able to make the.
Well, I watched you and Silvio Simac do a fight for Warrior Island, and you guys were both terrific. I don't know. Silvio, I know, has done movies before. He did something with Jason Statham. Now, David, I don't know if you ever did a fight scene in a movie before Warrior Island. Did you?
Oh, Last Kumite, yeah, some fights in there.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you kind of knew how to do. All I know is I watched you and Silvio, and I thought that was a great looking fight. Unfortunately, the director did not know how to shoot a fight, and he was just shooting wide lenses on the sides, basically getting a master shot. And then he would put a drone up in the air, and he thought, hey, the drone is our secret weapon. We're going to get some great stuff with the drone. You don't see shit with the drone in a fight scene. Basically, you're getting the tops of people's heads, and you don't know what's going on. You've got to get up close. You got to get right in their face with the camera and catch all those moves. And then you've got the footage you need to put the fight scene together. You need a couple of wide shots just to establish geography, just to see where everybody's at. But that's why those fights in Warrior Island looked lousy because, and you were there, David, you saw it, the guy was getting no coverage.
You need coverage, man.
I even
need
told
coverage.
them, get Mike, you need some close-ups. Oh, okay, we're just going to change it. He changes the lens, so it's a tighter lens, but the camera doesn't move. So he's not up there in their faces getting good shots. So we're going to get plenty of that on Mouthful of Knuckles, okay? We're going to be we're going to be in your face, Zach, getting shots, and then we'll probably get some shots of you know, like getting punched. Or you get the camera up close and you actually do a punch, so you can actually see some movement from the face. So we'll probably do a few like that, and we're gonna have some great looking fights in this one.
Yeah, going back to what you're talking about, you know, we're gonna have some people that actually know how to fight. I mean, I have reached out to some of the UFC guys that I know, like I've been in talks with Diego Sanchez, Joe Daddy Stevenson, a couple other people, and you know, I feel like bringing that realism into it is also gonna benefit. But at the same time, like you had said, David, you kind of have to train them a little bit on how to take a punch, because Sheldon, like you said,
you got to teach them.
It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, right?
Because these guys don't fake it. They don't fake it.
Exactly.
They do it for real. But we want in the movie, you got to fake it.
Yeah, you got to fake it. We had Diego Sanchez accidentally punched Nick Jonas in the face in the middle of one of the fight scenes, and it didn't look good. And then I accidentally elbowed Gray Maynard in the corner of the forehead and split him open. That didn't look good either. So you know, you gotta kind of go through that little. You got to go through the little training of how to take one, how to give one.
Right.
It's a dance, man. It's not a real fight. It's a dance.
It is a dance, absolutely.
Yeah.
And not only does it not look good, but people get hurt. Even like even real fighters, okay, you get kicked in the face. Like Jean-Claude got kicked in the face by Paco. That hurt. Okay, he couldn't do anything for 45 minutes. We had to put ice packs on him. Yeah. When you really get punched, it's gonna hurt. Now, if you're
when Nick Jonas got hit, he was done for the day. I mean,
delayed production, halt production. That sucks. Hey Zach, you know who you got to get? You got to get Nick Diaz. Remember we met him at the BKFC event. Like he's a character, man. It's like just play yourself, man. You know, like it'll be
he'd kill it, man. He'd kill it. The only thing is he just came off of the JC movie. You know?
No, I know that. What's it called? What's that new one coming out called?
Darkness of Man. I think.
Yeah.
And I got a buddy that's a producer on that show or on that movie, and you know,
you get a guy like Nick Diaz. You just take a look at this guy and you realize this guy's a badass. Okay, like with I got Paco Prieto in Only the Strong. Also, the thing about Paco is not only did he know. He knew a few capoeira moves, not a lot. We had to teach him a lot more for the movie. But you take a look at Paco, and you just realize, I don't want to mess with this guy. Okay, this guy looks like a real badass, and Jean-Claude looks like a real badass, and he is. You don't want to mess with Jean-Claude. Okay, people like to people on the internet like to say, oh, he's a ballerina. He studied ballet. I'm telling you, I've seen Jean-Claude throw some punches and some kicks, and he's the real deal. I've seen him do sparring with world champions. I've seen him spar with some real champs, and they can't land a hit on him. He's very fast, and you don't want him to hit you because it's going to hurt.
That's going to be trouble.
But you get somebody like that in your movie, and the audience can just sense that this guy's the real deal. Like this guy can really hurt somebody, and so we're definitely going to go for some people like that in this one. Well, like in Lionheart, we like Billy Blanks. You could just tell Billy's the real deal. We got Billy, we had Michelle Casey, and when Michelle Casey throws those punches, you can just tell this guy's a real boxer. Okay, this guy, if he connects with you, you're going to get hurt. So we're going to go for the same thing in Mouthful of Knuckles, and I keep hearing there's a lot of talent in the vicinity in the Midwest, and really the best thing to do is bring them in, and bring them into a studio, and let's just try them out. Let's just see what they can do. Like with Lionheart, we actually had, so Frank would be observing, and Michelle would actually spar with these people, the people that we like. He'd actually get in there and spar with them, and so he was able to look them in the face while they were throwing punches at him, and he just knew, okay, this guy's got it, this guy doesn't have it, and that's how we found our fighters for that one.
Oh, for sure. Hey, Zach, here's a really great, great question from Antonio. I don't know if you see it on your screen. He says, your quotes about legacy and pushing past limitations are powerful. How do these concepts resonate with you personally as a black belt and performer?
Well, I mean, legacy, everybody wants to leave something behind, right? I mean, everybody wants
I would
legacy.
hope so, man.
It's very subjective, right? It's subjective. It can be some people's legacy they want to leave is maybe minuscule to others, and vice versa, right?
Well, Zach, your legacy is what you've already done as a fighter. You've actually got a legacy there. Now you're gonna have a lot more coming, but you actually do have a legacy as somebody who's actually been in the ring and has done the fights. So that's I think that's what he's maybe talking about.
Yeah, I mean, pushing past limitations. How do the concepts resonate with beginning my black belt, being a performer? I mean, again, you have to push past limitations in life to get where you want to go. If not, you become sedentary and you just you're pretty much dead, right? I mean, what did Bruce Lee say? Running water never goes stale. So you just got to keep on flowing, right? So any limitation that's there, I see it as a challenge. If we didn't have the limitation, then again, we're not growing, we're dying. So in regards to me personally and getting my black belt, I mean, that was something that was very important to me. I got it at the age of 16. And then I got my first Dan Kukiwan once I turned 18, because it was like a junior black belt at first, because I wasn't able to send it off and get my Kukiwan. But yeah, I mean, I slept with my black belt for like the first 2 years. I slept with it, man. Like it was like next to me under my pillow, right? I mean, I worked my entire life to get that. But again, it's not the belt itself. It's what does it signify? I mean, that like again, Bruce Lee said, belts are only good enough to hold up your pants, right? We've all seen the difference between somebody that we would consider subjectively a black belt and somebody that has a black belt. There's a huge difference. Nowadays you see these people get black belts. They're 7 years old and been doing it for 6 months. That's not a black belt, I'm sorry, but it's just not. So yeah, I think everything there is entwined integrally to, it's all about giving and putting up your best every second. That's what pushing past limitations is. That's what legacy is. And that is what becoming a black belt is. A black belt within everything. It's not the belt itself. It's what it signifies. And it's being a better person, going after your dreams, going after your goals, not giving up, and honestly, leaving a trail for others to follow. That inspiration, that's important, because anybody can chase after their dream and be, just so full of themselves and, egotistical and just grab. It's, do you have footprints behind you for others to follow? And are they worth following? Did you set an example that's worth following? Or were you an asshole? And you just
now for this movie, for our auditions for fighters, we really don't care if you're a black belt or a green belt or whatever you got. Basically, okay, we want you to come in and get on the floor with either it's going to be Zach or it's going to be our fight choreographer or somebody else. Get on the floor.
Or David. David.
Or David. That's right. We got David too. David.
I'll filter him out.
Yeah, you'll be our punching bag, David. Okay.
Sure.
But basically, get on the floor with another fighter, and let's see what you can do. And that's what will impress us. We don't care if you got a black belt or not. That just gives me a good idea. David,
everything you stand for, your look.
You're going to be. You're part of the team that's going to be auditioning fighters. Okay, you good with that?
I'm the new Frank Dukes, I guess, right?
From Lionheart. Exactly.
And Zach's Michelle Kesey. I was just Sheldon again.
Perfect.
We'll find out if these guys are if they're accurate or not. Okay, so if David, if you get punched in the face when you're not supposed to, then we're going to say, okay, we're not using you. You're too sloppy. Sorry, David. Here's an ice pack. Minutes. But actually, I would like I'd like Zach to get in there with some of once we narrow it down to like a core group, I definitely would want Zach to get in there with them, and let's see what the choreography looks like between the two of you. And that's what we did with Lionheart. Also, we'd have Frank and Michelle try these guys, and they really did get on the floor with Michelle. They're throwing punches, and Michelle's throwing punches, and basically you can't fool Michelle when it comes to fighting ability.
That's Tung
And-
Po. Can't
And
do
then
it.
once we had a core group, then we put them in with Jean-Claude. So Jean-Claude actually did some sparring with these people. And Jean-Claude, like I said, he's no bullshit. He can really spar. He can really fight. And that's what led to our final choices for the people you actually see on screen. And I'd like to do the same thing here. So we'll go through David on our fight choreographer first, and then we got a few final choices. Let's put them in with Zach and we got to see how they look next to you also. Because the one thing I don't want to do is pick fighters that look similar to you or to look similar to one another.
Mhm.
We had that a few times on Lionheart also. We had, here's a couple of guys we like a lot, but damn, you can't tell the difference between the two of them. They look very similar. And so we would go with one of them and eliminate the other. So we'll probably be doing that here too.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Hey, it looks like David Kirst is here. He said, looking great, guys. Can't wait to film my movie with you all. It's going to be epic. Yes, it's definitely going to be epic. Oh, here's a comment. You want to pull that up from Lewis Martins, Ryan? Oh, thanks for the $10, by the way. He said, hey, guys, VS, awesome stream. A question for Sheldon. Any chance of seeing you and Van Damme ever come together and make another movie together? What do you think?
It's hard. We've come together to make another movie a few times. We've tried to get a few things off the ground, and it just hasn't been successful so far. A lot has to do with the fact that Jean-Claude requires a certain amount of money to be in a movie. Otherwise, he's going to be selling himself short, and his price is going to go down. So you generally got to have $1 million to give him if you even want to consider having him in your movie. And that makes it difficult. And we have come together a few times, tried to get something off the ground, but we run into various roadblocks along the way. So I really, I'd love to say that we're going to do something else together, but it would be hard for me to predict that with any kind of accuracy at all.
Okay. Well, if you guys do, we want Double Impact too.
I actually worked on the script. I was actually working on the script for Double Impact 2. Jean-Claude wanted to make it. The problem we ran into there was that the original producer, Moshe Diamant, sold rights to many different countries. So, and part of selling those rights, these people, they had the right to release Double Impact in their country, in their territory, but they also had an option to be involved with any sequels that might come out of it. So basically, we had to get like maybe 30 different people to all agree with one another, to all agree that, okay, I'm not going to be the main producer, but I'm going to have a producer title. And I have to, and how much money do I got to put in? I'm not going to put in that much. I'll put in less. So we had to get all these people together to agree to be involved with Double Impact 2. And we just could not make that happen. And then apparently the rights were owned by MGM. So we actually got to the point of where somebody approached MGM and said, hey, we want to make Double Impact 2. And MGM wanted a shitload of money, but they weren't going to put any money in on their own. Basically, we want you to pay us X amount for the rights. But no, we're not putting any money in. You guys are going to do that. So so that pretty much fell apart. And I think the same thing has happened with Lionheart, because I know Jean-Claude was trying to put together a Lionheart sequel. It was the same thing. Sunil Shah had sold rights to many different territories, which is one of the reasons that Lionheart's got all these different titles. You know, it's got a different title in France, a different title in England, different title in Australia. But these were different distributors that they sold rights to. And they all had their fingers in the pie when it came to making a sequel. They all had to be compensated. They all had to be taken care of. They all had to be given credits on the movie. And that just became impossible calculus to work with.
You know what we have to do, and I think there was a missed opportunity with Lionheart, because I wish you guys filmed a lot of those auditions to put on bonus features. You know, for the fighting auditions, cool. Right? So we got to do that for Mouthful of Knuckles.
We can do that, sure. Yeah.
That's
we did not videotape the auditions, but I did videotape actually for Lionheart. I videotaped a lot of auditions for Double Impact, so we had some extra footage on Double Impact, and we also had I also had the first cut of Double Impact on tape, because Lionheart was done pre-digital. All right, so everything was on film. Mm-hmm. So I did not have a cut of like an early cut of Lionheart on VHS tape. Basically, it was all film. It was all film spliced together. We did not. I shot auditions for the actors for Lionheart, and those are on tape, and those I still have, but not for the fighters.
Sure.
And we shot auditions for Double Impact also for the actor auditions, and those are actually on one of the special edition Blu-rays that was put up by MVD. They actually have some of that footage, and where you can see, you can see Tia Carrere trying out for the part of Danielle. So we actually had a lot of stuff on that. And now I'm being asked a question here about Only the Strong. We shot video on Only the Strong also, but there just hasn't. It's a popular film, but there hasn't been that much clamor for special features. And we're trying to get a special edition of Only the Strong put out there. The original producer was a French man named Sami Hadida. Mm-hmm. And Sammy unfortunately died about 5 years ago. He was the real impetus behind Only the Strong. And now his brother has pretty much taken over, and the brother is just not, he's just not a dynamo like Sammy. And so we're trying to get a special edition made, but it hasn't happened yet.
You know what's funny? They recently there's a huge YouTube channel called Joe Blow. And right. I sent you that video. They did a whole thing about Only the Strong. And you know, it was funny. They mentioned like there's not bonus features available on the discs that are out, but they gave my channel a shout out because I've covered that movie so extensively with interviews from you, Mark Dacascos, Paco Prieta, Luis Esteban, the co-writer, Master Aman Santo.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Everybody. I have, like, if anybody wants more Only the Strong, I have so much on that movie. My channel is all the bonus features for now.
We have to get the original production company, which is a French company, Metropolitan Film Export. They've got to come on board. Now, Luis Esteban has had numerous conversations with Victor Hadida, but then Victor stops returning phone calls for some strange reason. So we just haven't gotten it to actually happen. Hopefully it will. It was not available to view on streaming for many years, and only recently have you been able to see Only the Strong on streaming. So hopefully something will move forward with that. Now here's another question from Kilts and Handpans. Okay,
he paid $5 to address this.
Is Sheldon actually a disguise played out by Frank Dukes? Sounds like Frank to me. Okay, now I want to make a very funny comment about that. And somebody else who said this to me. He said, it sounds like Frank is pretending to be you when it comes to the military background. Because I actually was in the Vietnam. I actually was in Special Forces. I actually did all that kind of stuff. Never claimed to be in the CIA, though. And then, on the other hand, for the fighting, Frank would love to be Don Wilson, who Frank has put down many times online. But basically, Don is the real deal, who's had numerous real bouts, all of which he's won. And, of course, Frank likes to say that, Don actually paid those fighters to take a dive, which makes Don Wilson laugh quite a bit. And his comment is, gee, I wish I had all the enough money to be able to pay every one of those fighters to take a dive, but if I didn't do that, I actually had to beat them fair and square in the ring. So basically, somebody has said, for the military background, Frank wishes he was you, and for the martial arts and fighting background, he wishes he was Don Wilson. And of course, he's always putting out disparaging comments about both of us. So that's the Frank Dukes.
So you were special. You were Green Beret.
No, I was in Force Recon, Marine Corps Force Recon. I trained with the Green Berets. I actually, you know about Ranger School, right? I see an Army poster.
Yeah, I was in 12 years in the Army. So yeah,
you were.
I was nothing is on your level though. I was a medic.
You were no Frank Dukes, Brian.
Medics are important.
No Frank Dukes.
But I was, I went to jump school. I'm a graduate of Ranger School. So I did all this crazy stuff, jumping out of planes and, swimming 5 miles to the ocean at night. I did all this crazy stuff back then. Frank never did any of it, but tries to claim that he did, and tries to claim that he was a Medal of Honor recipient, which is very insulting to anybody who's ever been in combat, and anybody who's, especially to Medal of Honor, real Medal of Honor recipients, to have this guy claiming he and it's more than just making claims. He actually showed me a Medal of Honor. Invites me over to his house. Hey, look what I got here. This is my Medal of Honor.
No, he did.
I swear, but it's not just me. He showed it to Brian Thompson as well. So Brian,
did we get Don Shipley on him? You know who Don Shipley is?
Don Shipley has been on his ass a few times. Yeah, yeah. So he's truly one of the biggest phonies out there. But what surprises me, and I just did not comprehend this at the time when I was talking to Frank about some of this stuff way back when. There's a lot of stolen valor phonies out there. There's a lot of them. There are a lot of people who claim to be military, not just veterans, but military heroes. And they have photographs of themselves with medals all over their chest. Same as Frank did. Frank never won a single medal for anything.
And you know what you say is so important, because I experience it a lot, like not a lot, but enough. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's embellishing, and you know they're not describing the situation, because you've been in the military. You know how things work and how they don't work. And when somebody starts getting into, I was selected by the general, like the general isn't like, what is Specialist Robinson doing again? Wow, he did his PT test.
That's what Frank said. He basically just jumped the line because the Army, the military saw that, he had all this ninjutsu training. So he just jumped the line, and they just put him in special forces. Without having, there's no Ranger school, there's no jump school, there's none of that. And yet he's got a photograph of himself with all these medals and jump wings. And he never made a single military jump in his life. So it's insulting to those of us who've been there, who've done that, who've had to go slogging through the mud in Vietnam. And here's this guy saying, I did all that.
Well, the guy who put this up made another comment and said, best $5 I've ever spent in a while. So, go ahead, Brian.
I just want to say, people don't know what Sheldon went through, how tough. I've been there. I've seen it is incredibly tough training, and only a few are capable of doing it.
We got to give the guy the other part of the question that he spent the $5 on, man. And we had him on the channel, Brian. I don't know if you recognize the
I remember him. Yeah,
the ninjutsu guy.
Something. I forgot.
Hey, Zach. So he's asking, what does Zach think about ninjutsu?
I mean, I think there's a special place for every martial art out there. I'm not well versed enough in ninjutsu to actually give you some, a real in-depth answer to that. I don't know enough about it, man. But to me, martial arts are extremely important in the growth and mindset of a human being. It's the art of expressing oneself. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I said, they all have some good in them. Maybe not all of them can be used in specific, situations. But there is something within every single martial art that can be utilized in every situation. So yeah, I mean, ninjutsu, whatever it is, I'm all for martial arts. I think every kid should be starting in martial arts around 5 or 6. I mean, you look over in other countries, Korea, for example. I mean, it is mandatory during gym class. They're all doing Taekwondo. It's mandatory. And I think it ingrains something deep within the human being and the soul. There's something in there. There's emotional content there, and you learn to really connect everything in here through martial arts. And yeah, I think there's a difference between fighting
You're
and
a
martial.
great diplomat, Zach. I love that. You're very humble and you're a great diplomat. I like that.
Thank you, sir.
I've always said, learning martial arts and lifting weights is basically about the closest you could become to being like a real life superhero. It's true. So,
and it's so subjective, right? I mean, everything in this world is so subjective based upon somebody else's, thoughts, perspectives, all that, right? So what it is to somebody else might be completely different to somebody else.
Okay, here's a new question. Mouthful of Knuckles. Is there a hot chick in this? Gotta be, right?
Yeah, with Zach's looks, you gotta have a good-looking woman in there. Somebody's getting seduced.
She's got to look better than Zach, so you got that could be.
That's going to be hard.
Now, David Kirst has there is a female love interest in the story. We don't have an actress picked yet, but David Kirst has somebody in mind who lives in Texas, and we'll be auditioning people. We'll be looking in the Midwest, looking at some actresses. But hot chick, there's a female lead that's very important to the story. Is she going to be a hot chick? Well, we'll find out in the next few months. Okay, but most likely we will pick somebody who's attractive, but hot chick. I don't know about that. I don't think we're going to be having any. We're not going to be having any Pam Anderson stuff happening in this movie. It's mostly about the fights.
Okay. Well, here's a cool comment to wrap things up. I can't even scroll up. Somebody had made the comment that you would be a great politician, Zach.
Oh yeah,
I don't know about that, man.
You got the right answer.
I try to stay away from religion and politics, man.
Okay.
But I'll take it as a compliment, I guess.
Very wise. You can't go wrong in life if you stay away from those two topics when you're sitting in a group of people with varying opinions.
I just feel it's just keeping an even keel with everybody, but at the same time, standing your ground. You don't want to be a chameleon either. You don't want to be.
I try to keep an even keel with everybody, but when it comes to stolen valor, okay, so you know what I'm talking about. That really rubs me the wrong way. Me and anybody who's actually been in the military and had to go through all, just the training itself can really be hell, especially when you're talking Ranger School and Marine Corps and all of that stuff. And for anybody to pretend to be someone who's a war hero and who'll take a photograph of themselves with jump wings that they never earned, with medals for valor that they never earned, that rubs me the wrong way. And no, I'm no politician when it comes to that. I'm going to dislike those people and put my dislike out there for the world to hear.
Especially when they make war veterans look bad. When they make war veterans look bad by claiming their problems are due to the war they fought in. And I mean, it's just begging for money when they've never even been a vet. And that kind of stuff really irks me.
Right. And what surprised me is that there's once I started investigating this stuff, stolen valor, it surprises me just how many people are out there doing this.
Well, the book you showed me.
What's that?
Was crazy. Remember that book you showed me the other day when I was over?
Stolen Valor. Yeah, I got it here.
Yeah, I mean, I was blown away. Certain people in there that I had no idea. Brian Dennehy is in there.
Right.
I had no idea from Rambo or from First Blood.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
Right. So no, I can't be diplomatic when it comes to that. Not in any way.
Yeah, it makes sense. And guys, there's a reason why Sheldon Lettich's amazing book is called From Vietnam to Van Damme, because there's a whole section on Sheldon's background in the military. So check that out if you haven't seen that book.
Hey, I just wanted to say too, David, you and I know who I'm talking about. Greg Plitt was an Army Ranger, actually.
Oh,
So,
okay.
knew that or not? But yeah, he was an Army Ranger, and that guy is the real deal. Was the real deal? You know, he passed away in
For sure.
2015. He's a
Yeah.
dear friend of mine. But when you had brought up about the Rangers, you know, I thought of Greg. That's the real deal. If you guys don't know who that is, look him up.
Yeah, he was one of the top fitness guys in the world. And you were actually going to play him in a film, weren't you? Or still might, actually.
Well, I mean, we have a script, and you know, we have some working pieces. But I wrote a story with another friend of mine, and worked on him a few other different projects. One was the Re-Education of Molly Singer. That's where we met, where I played quite the opposite to this guy, but to this main character Chase. But we do have a project that hopefully we'll get made.
Nice.
I got one thing for you, Sheldon. You're gonna be in one movie, and it'll be me and you. We'll be in a VFW, and you'll know I'm a stolen valor guy. And then you get up and you beat the crap out of me.
You break that Army sign over his head. That Army sign behind him.
I do have a question, Sheldon. When do we get to see you on screen? Because you get Quentin Tarantino's made a few where he drops in. Is there an area where maybe we get Sheldon and Knuckles?
Like I told Lawrence Bender, I'm not an actor. I've never wanted to be an actor. I've never wanted to be a movie star. I sincerely mean that. There's a little clip of me in Lionheart. There's a scene on the docks. Michelle Casey and Voyo Gorick are walking. They're looking for Jean-Claude's character. And I'm in the background. There were some goats. I said, hey, guys, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to be the goat herder. Okay.
That's
so they actually dressed me up like some Moroccan. And other people have noticed it. Actually,
did you notice that, David?
No, I did not. I didn't know that, man.
You look on my IMDb page, and for Lionheart, it'll say director, screenwriter, and goat herder. Yeah. So that was the one time I jumped in, and I just thought that would be fun to, because I got kind of a North African look about me, so I figured, well, let me do that.
I love it.
Haven't done it since.
Perfect role for you in Mouthful of Knuckles. You could be like the equivalent of Lawrence Bender and Lionheart.
I could
be. You could kick Zach's ass, right? And then he comes up to you.
You go.
The thing is, Lawrence is a real actor. Lawrence, he ended up producing most of Tarantino's movies, but he was an actor before that. We were auditioning. We had this character, I think it was called the Heckler at the New York fight, and I might have even called him the New York asshole or something like that, because we wanted somebody to be really nasty, like some nasty, typical New York City jerk.
Yep.
And we actually auditioned a bunch of people, and nobody was really getting it. And so I tell the casting director, you know what? I'm going to call my buddy Lawrence Bender. He's from New York. He's an actor. He'll know how to do this. All right. So I call him. Hey, Lawrence, can you come in and try out for a part? Sure. He comes in, and he fucking nails it. And Lawrence just nailed it perfectly. And I said, okay, Lawrence, you're our guy. And so then we had him come in and do the scene. And that scene could not have gone better. He was really great at catcalling and heckling from the sidelines, and did it so well that Jean-Claude finally just got fed up and just goes and yanks him in. And to Lawrence's credit, he stayed in character and did not just say something like, hey, Jean-Claude, what are you doing, man? No, nothing. He stayed in character. And then Harrison stayed in character.
Harrison's line was the best. Man, come on, man. You ain't gonna do shit. I love that.
That was great. It astounds me. People have seen Lionheart and Double Impact so many times that they know every line in these movies much better than I do. I don't remember every single line, but I've run, like you just did a good really good line reading of what Harrison was saying, and that was completely ad lib. But I have run into people who've seen these movies. People have told me that they have watched Bloodsport 100 times.
Oh yeah.
Easily, yeah.
I met this one guy once, maybe at one of these book signings or something. He said that he had he put Bloodsport on audio tape, the entire movie on audio tape, and he would listen to it in his car while he was driving to work, driving through traffic. Like, he's got every image from that movie in his head, and he's just driving and just listening to it and reimagining every scene in Bloodsport. So it's crazy. There were a couple of guys in New York City, I'm talking about some serious Wall Street people who worked on Wall Street, but they were fans of Double Impact since the time they were teenagers. And they got in touch with me. They flew me out to New York, and they also wanted to talk about doing a sequel to Double Impact. And these guys actually had access to millions of dollars.
Yeah, they could pull it off.
And we talked. It never went anywhere, but they knew every damn line in that movie. Okay, you just mention a scene, and the two of them could basically do Chad and Alex right there in front of me. They knew every line. So
yeah, these movies become like a tapestry of our lives. They're like part of us. Especially when you grew up watching them, like me and Zach were obviously young, growing up watching these, and inspired us. A lot of other people on the channel. I mean, that's why my YouTube channel even is so popular, because I talk about these movies, right? And it brings people back to that magical moment in their childhood when they first started working out, when they first started doing martial arts. I get so many people that reach out to me saying, "Oh, I love your channel because like it takes me back," and like you're full of hopes and dreams when you're young too, right? It's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time. But anyway. Just to wrap it up, we'll all leave like a last statement. I wanted to just quickly address something that Stephen Williams, what's up, Steve, that he asked when my next fight was, or when my next fight will be. I have a huge announcement I'll make next week. Like Brian knows all about it. Like, and me and him are so relentless on trying to set this up. So I'll talk more about like the behind the scenes on how I got this going and everything else. But this thing is going to be massive. I hinted at it to you yesterday when I talked, Sheldon, and I'll tell you about it later. But anyway, anyone got any last words aside from how awesome Mouthful of Knuckles is going to be, and you guys need to watch it later when it comes out, probably next year?
I think I've said enough. Okay.
I'm excited. I'm excited to put another piece of Sheldon's legacy into fruition.
Incredible.
But I'm no Jean-Claude Van Damme. I don't plan to be Jean-Claude Van Damme. This will be completely different than Jean-Claude.
People used to tell Jean-Claude, "Hey, you're the next Arnold Schwarzenegger," and he would say, "No, I'm not. I'm the next Van Damme."
Right. Yeah, they used to say he's the next Bruce Lee, the next Arnold, but he's Van Damme, And Zach
right. And Zach, you're not the next Van Damme. You're the next Zach Shear. Okay,
that's right. So
let's leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Brian, leave us with some wisdom.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think you're going to do well, Zach. You have a very special, humble personality. You're not going to be arrogant, and you're probably, I would guarantee you're going to be extraordinarily easy to work with.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan. I've worked with some really big people, and it's one thing that really irks me is, people want to complain and whine about things, and it's like, you're on a movie set, man. Oh, you're mad they didn't give you 20 French fries instead of 15? Come on, man, you're on a movie set. Smile, laugh, you're alive. Pinch yourself.
Zach reminds me more of Mark Dacascos personally, because Mark was very, very humble. He's still very humble. He was great at doing what he had to do on screen. He was a good actor. He could do all those acrobatics, and he actually took the time to learn how to do the capoeira, and actually spent months perfecting it. But he's never become arrogant or egotistical, even though he's done lots of stuff. They put him in one of those John Wick movies. Those guys were impressed with him. Everybody who's worked with Mark has been in love with them. And I've never heard a bad thing said about him. And if anything, Zach, you remind me more of Mark personality-wise.
Thank
and
you, sir.
Jean-Claude
Huge
or Stallone or even Arnold. But basically, you don't seem like you're not a blowhard, and I don't think you're ever going to be a blowhard. I think you're going to keep that humility about you for the rest of your career.
Absolutely.
Let's hope I'm right. Okay.
I think you picked the winner.
And keep an update,
Mark
guys.
Sheldon's words. It's there.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm just not that type of guy, man. I want to see everybody survive. I want to see everybody do well. And, you know, I'm here. If I can touch one person, like look at what we have all been discussing right now and how these movies that Sheldon and everybody have made that have changed our lives and literally are ingrained in our DNA to this very day. I mean, you think about that guy that goes to work listening to Bloodsport every day. That's in him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If I can do that to one person, it's all worth it. And hey, if it's only my family, then I'm okay with that too.
Okay,
Well said, brother.
I'll see you on the set, dude. Okay, we're gonna try to make. We're gonna do our best to make something that is part, as you said, part of the legacy. That's not what I've been thinking. I'm just thinking about making this movie. But if it's part of the legacy started by Bloodsport and Lionheart and those others, I would be very happy if it fell into that category. Okay, so
create the magic, man. It's gonna
Hey,
happen.
look, all I want to do, Sheldon, this is what I foresee. I just want to walk into your office again and just the next time I walk, not next time, but a year or two from now, I want to see Mouthful of Knuckles sitting up there. That's my goal. We get there, we won. As soon as it's up there on the wall, we won. Right?
Well, you
can't take the Rambo 3 one down. The Rambo 3 has to stay where it's at.
Okay.
I think it's legit. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for joining, everybody, and we'll keep giving you updates as this film progresses. So, yeah, stay tuned.
All right. See you, everybody.
Thank you guys so much.